Okay, good morning, all of you. Let's get started.
Okay, good morning.
Today morning, I sent you assignment related to columns. Okay, once we complete today's class, you should be able to solve that one. Last class, we discussed about how the columns are classified based on the type of reinforcement, based on the type of loading, and also how the columns can be classified as short columns and long columns depending on the slenderness ratio. Okay, and also we noted about the effective length of column. And please note that table, this figure in annexure E, effective lengths of columns, how to take effective lengths of columns, that information is given. Please note that this effective length is going to depend on whether the column is sway type or no sway type. Whether the column, the two ends of the columns are going to have lateral displacements. You can see here whatever I just mentioned. Here when the relative displacements of the ends of the column is prevented. Okay, when the relative displacements of the ends of the column is prevented, then it is no sway column. When the relative displacements of the columns are not prevented, then it is called sway column. And actually, this whether it's going to depend whether the relative displacements are going to be there or not. They are going to depend on the end conditions of the column. The end conditions of the column is going to depend on the elements that are framing into that particular end. Depends on the stiffness, the flexural stiffness of the columns and beams that are framing into that particular joint. Okay. To get these effective lengths, you can make use of figure 26 and 27, and whatever I am just covering, that is only for completeness. So this, how to read this effective length from this figure 26 and 27. Figure 26 and 27, they are giving effective length ratios. Effective length ratio is nothing but the ratio of effective length to the unsupported length. So what should be that value? Effective length ratio, that information is given in figure 26 and 27. 26 is for no sway column and 27 is for sway column. So you need to calculate these coefficients or these parameters beta 1, beta 2. Beta 1, beta 2 are nothing but there's a function of these flexural stiffnesses of the elements that are framing into that particular joint. So beta 1 is for top and beta 2 is for bottom. Once you get beta 1, beta 2, and please note that to do all this, you need to have the entire the idea about the entire framing system. Then only you will be able to calculate beta 1, beta 2. Once beta 1, beta 2 are known, then depending on whether it's sway column or no sway column, you can read either from figure 26 or 27. So before that, before reading, before you read figure 26, select 26 or 27. Once you get beta 1, beta 2, you need to either select 26 or 27 figures. So how to do this selection? Because we need to know, we should have an idea about whether the column is going to have sway or no sway. That classification is actually made through the stability index. Made through the stability index. This stability index, again, it depends on the framing system and other details. Okay. So as a part of this course, we may not be able to go through all this, but just for information, I am covering this. Once you get the stability index, you can do this checking whether it is less than this particular value 0.04 If that is the case, the column may be taken as no sway column. Otherwise, column is taken as sway column. So accordingly, you can read either figure 26 or 27. So this is how you can actually, given a framing system, once you get a complete idea about the framing system of a particular building, you can actually find the effective lengths of different columns. Accordingly, you can actually design them depending on whether they are falling under the category of short columns or long columns. So here, that is what is mentioned here. When the effective length with respect to the major axis, so you need to make use of that annexure E and get the effective lengths, and then take these ratios. And then if these two ratios with respect to the major axis as well as with respect to the minor axis, it is less than 12, then it is classified as short column. Otherwise, it is classified as a long column. So in case we don't have all this information, this table 28 is giving you effective lengths of compression member for idealized cases. Idealized cases means I can assume the two ends to be fixed, or one end to be hinged, other end to be fixed. So various idealized conditions, for various idealized conditions, what are the effective lengths the code is recommending to take? And for various conditions, in the last class we pointed out to you, here in this table, the first three cases are no sway columns, and the rest of the cases are sway columns. Okay. And if you want to classify them in the same manner as while reading figure 26 and 27, that is how you can do it. But these are for idealized conditions. So as a part of this course, let's limit ourselves to these idealized cases. Once in the problem statement, the end conditions, the information about the end conditions are given, we can take the particular value of effective length from here, and then we can actually go with the design. Okay. Professor Amlan, you want to add something at this stage?
No, I think it's fine, because this is, you're just repeating, it's okay.
Okay, so this is what we covered in the last class. And in addition to that, we also noted one more important point. Okay, first of all, please note that we are discussing about designing a compression member as a column. So what is this column? How do we say something is a column? And when we need to use all this procedure? IS 456 code classifies or defines column as compression member, the effective length of which exceeds 3 times least lateral dimension. If effective length of the column is less than 3 times the least lateral dimension, then it is classified as pedestal. For pedestal, you don't need to use reinforcement. Okay, you can actually make it only plain concrete as a pedestal. So that also you need to make a note. So whatever procedure we are studying under columns, that is applicable for the case, or we are focusing on when the effective length exceeds 3 times the least lateral dimension. Then only you need to provide reinforcement and other things. Then only we go for RC section. Otherwise, if it is you can even adopt a plain concrete for pedestal. Okay. So with that, let me go further. And in today's class, we will take few problems, and then we will go through them, and then also at the same time we note various clauses from the code. And before that, we also just let me revise this: minimum eccentricities. All columns should be designed for minimum eccentricity. This also I showed you in the code. It is given under columns, compression members. Here, all these slender columns, short columns, slender columns, unsupported length, and effective length, annexure E, it is referring here. And also, you need to, once you complete your design, you need to do one more check and see whether your this column that you designed is satisfying the slenderness limits which are given under this 25.3. Okay, that also we'll make a note of it in today's class when we are seeing the numerical examples. Minimum eccentricity, it is given in it is given under 25.4. So all columns we need to design for this. And if you, whatever description that is given here, if you write it mathematically, this is how that equation or that particular clause is going to translate into. The minimum eccentricity is given L divided by 500, D divided by 300. And please note that this is an empirical relation, and here all the dimensions should be in millimeters. All the dimensions should be in millimeters. Okay. L should be in millimeters, D should be in millimeter, and you calculate minimum eccentricity using this relation, and also make sure if this compare with 20, if it is less than 20, you take at least 20. Okay. And this is for rectangular columns, and for non-rectangular, non-circular cross sections, the recommended minimum eccentricity is this one, and it is given in SP24. So with this, let's go and look a few examples, then you will understand better. So let's take an example. Design the reinforcements. You please take a note of this. Design the reinforcements in a column of size 400 mm by 600 mm, subjected to an axial load of 2000 kilonewtons. Column has an unsupported length of 3 meters and is braced against side sway in both directions. So you don't need to do that stability index check and other things. That information is already given here. It's braced against side sways in both directions, and effective length is also given to you. So unsupported length is given to you. So we'll see how to take the effective length. Okay, adopt M20 grade of concrete Fe415 steel, and whatever information that is given in the problem statement, key points are noted here. Please take a note of this. And both the cross-sectional dimensions are noted. They are denoted here with the dy and dx. Dx is depth in the major axis, depth with respect to the major axis. Dy is depth with respect to the minor axis. Okay. Please see if you have any here any clarifications required. Here, this is depth with respect to the major axis, depth with respect to the minor axis. Okay, so let's proceed, and we need to actually let's go through this. Okay, as the column is braced against side sway in both directions, the effective length ratios kx and ky are both less than unity. Effective length ratios are going to be less than unity. We'll see how it is, and we also need to make a note one more thing, whether the slenderness ratio is less than 12 or not. Please note that here unsupported length divided by the dimensions along x and y also needs to be considered, but here the least one is considered. If the least one is less than 12, automatically when you divide with 600, it is going to be less than 12. That's why only one check is made. So first we need to make sure. Please note that whatever procedure for the design we are going to discuss, it is only applicable for short columns, short axially loaded columns. So this is what we are actually limiting ourselves. short axially loaded members. So before we proceed further, we need to make sure the column is short. So that's why this check is made. So it's going to be short column, but as per the definition of this classification, as per the definition of classification, let's see that here it is LEX divided by D, LEY divided by D should be less than 12. LEX is nothing but effective length with respect to the major axis, and LEY is effective length with respect to the minor axis. Here unsupported length is given. Unsupported length, using unsupported length, we need to multiply with this effective length factor. Effective length factor is nothing but here, this one. Effective length is given by some factor multiplied by unsupported length. So what is this factor K? That depends on the end conditions of the column. For idealized cases, it is given in figure 28. Table 28 is giving you these factors for various cases. Okay, and here the first three are for no sway column, that is braced columns. The rest of the things are for unbraced or sway columns. So for braced columns, you can see this coefficient, whatever the recommended value of effective length, it is always going to be less than or equal to 1. Less than or equal to 1. So that is what the point that is made here. In the example, it is mentioned this factor, as the column is braced against side sway in both directions, effective length ratio Kx, Ky are both less than unity. So another thing is this slenderness ratio has to be calculated with respect to the effective length. Slenderness ratio has to be calculated with respect to effective length. But because the maximum LEX can be is equal to L, unsupported length. Okay, that is for this particular case. That is for the case of when two ends are hinged. When two ends are hinged, under that case, this factor is equal to 1. In all other cases, all the rest of the two cases, it's less than 1. So that is what is mentioned here. It's braced against side sway in both directions. So effective length Kx, Ky are both less than or equal to unity. At most, it's going to be equal to unity. So instead of calculating the effective length in X direction, effective length in Y direction, taking the specific value of these ratios, directly unsupported length is taken. Anyway, the actual value is going to be less than this, and that is what is checked. And even when I take the unsupported length and I take the least dimension, 600 by 400, out of which 400 is selected. So even for that case, this ratio turns out to be less than 12. So the column is going to be a short column. So we can follow the procedure under axially loaded short column. So this is the first step you need to make sure. And then that the column is short, because whatever procedure we are learning as a part of this course, that is applicable only for short columns. So after that is over, you need to calculate this minimum eccentricity. Minimum eccentricity is given by this relation. So please take a note of it, because it's difficult to go back and forth. Minimum eccentricity is L divided by 500 plus D divided by 30. Add them together, and not less than 20 mm. L is the unsupported length. Lateral dimension, D is lateral dimension in the plane of bending, whether it's bending in the along major axis or minor axis, depending on that particular thing. That's why in the example that we are going to look at, we are going to calculate minimum eccentricity with respect to both axes. Please take a note of this relation. So here we need to substitute, and this is minimum eccentricity. And using this equation, you can see how it is calculated here. Minimum eccentricity with respect to the major axis, minimum eccentricity with respect to the minor axis. When you are calculating minimum eccentricity with respect to the major axis, the corresponding depth with respect to major axis is used. And please note that all the dimensions, all the quantities L and D, they are substituted in millimeters. And minimum eccentricity with respect to y-axis. And one more thing, please note that here L is unsupported length. L is unsupported length. You can see here in the code. All columns shall be designed for minimum eccentricity equal to unsupported length of column divided by 500 plus lateral dimension divided by 30, subjected to a minimum of 20 mm. Okay, so that is what is done with respect to major axis, with respect to minor axis, and not less than 20 mm. That check is also made. If it is more than 20 mm, take it as 20 mm. Okay. Sorry, if it is more than 20 mm, you take that particular value. And also the minimum eccentricity. Minimum eccentricity, we need to check whether, please see under this short axially loaded columns under compression. So column is, we checked it is a short column. And whatever minimum eccentricity that we calculated, the minimum eccentricity should not exceed, or when the minimum eccentricity does not exceed 0.05 times the lateral dimension, then only whatever procedure we are going to discuss, it is applicable. So minimum eccentricity is checked with respect to that as well. 0.05 multiplied by the lateral dimension. 0.05 multiplied by the corresponding lateral dimension. Okay, so whatever, that is what is mentioned. The Codal formula for short columns is applicable. So before you start using this relation or this equation for designing column, you need to make sure first column is short column, and also calculate the minimum eccentricity as per the Codal requirement. And once that minimum eccentricity as per the Codal requirements is not exceeding 0.05 times the lateral dimension, then only you should make use of this relation. Okay, so that is all what is carried out now. All those checks are made, and then finally this equation we can make use of. Okay, and now how to make use of that equation? PU is the load that is coming. PU is the design axial load on the member, design load on the member. You know what is the load? The axial load, 2000 kilonewtons. You need to multiply with partial safety factor 1.5. That is going to be your design load. FCK, grade of concrete is given, grade of steel is given. So these two quantities are known. And also AC. AC is the area of concrete. Area of concrete, the section dimensions are given. And so if you want to be very specific, you can deduct the reinforcement area. Okay. But if you want to be you are not so want to be accurate, then you can take whatever cross-sectional dimension, 600 by 400. Based on that, you can calculate area of concrete. Let's see how it is carried out here. Okay, that is the load, axial load, and 0.4 FCK AG is used. Please note that in this equation it is written AC. area of concrete, only area, the concrete portion, and concrete portion is going to be whatever steel portion that you need to subtract from the gross cross-sectional area. Then you are going to get AC. So that is what is actually done here. 0.4 FCK gross cross-sectional area. And here you can see here, minus, actually if you remove this bracket and read, 0.4 FCK multiplied by area of compression steel is subtracted. So then you are going to get area of concrete. So that is taken care here, okay? And this is the second portion of that, that particular equation, 0.67 Fy ASA. Okay, everything is straightforward here. So everything is known in this equation except area of compression steel. So you can back calculate what is that and decide on the diameter of the bar and then count the number of bars. Okay, provide 6 25 mm diameter bars. And also here a combination is used, 25 mm bars and 20 mm bars. Okay, 6 25 mm bars and 4 20 mm bars. And finally, whatever area of steel that is provided is checked whether it is greater than whatever is required. Okay, and also one more check is made. Okay, anyway, this is all straightforward. I hope this is all straightforward. If you have any questions, please raise that. And then we need to also check whatever area of steel we are providing. The area of reinforcement provided is greater than minimum steel requirement of 0.8%. Where this is given, where this particular thing is given, it's given under this one here, 26. Columns. Cross-sectional area of longitudinal reinforcement shall not be less than 0.8%. It shall not be less than 0.8%, and also it shall not be more than 6%. Because if you provide more reinforcement, then there is going to be a problem when you are actually concreting it. When you place the concrete and when you are trying to vibrate it and other things, because of like a lot of reinforcement, you may not be able to do proper compaction. So your the concrete, finally the hardened concrete may have a lot of pockets or the gaps. Okay, so the column is it may affect your durability as well as strength of your column. So code is specifying the maximum percentage of steel as well. So minimum percentage of steel, and also you can check whether the steel that you provided, whether it is actually exceeding 6%. That check also you can do it. Okay, here the minimum reinforcement check is made. Minimum reinforcement that needs to be provided is this much, and anyway we provided more than that. Okay, so this is about longitudinal reinforcement. What about the tie rods? What about the tie rods? Transverse reinforcement. Transverse reinforcement, and here pitch and diameter of lateral ties. Pitch of the transverse reinforcement shall not be more than the least of the following distances. Please make a note of it. Least lateral dimension of compression member, 16 times the smallest diameter of longitudinal reinforcement bar to be tied. Smallest longitudinal reinforcement bar to be tied is 20 mm, and also 300 mm. Or least out of this, you need to make sure that the spacing between the pitch of the lateral ties should not exceed that. Okay, should not be more than that. And what about diameter? Diameter of the lateral or polygonal links or lateral ties shall not be less than 1/4 of the diameter of the longitudinal bar. Okay, shall not be less than 1/4 of the diameter of the longitudinal bar. So here the longitudinal bar, the diameter of the largest longitudinal bar. Largest longitudinal bar that you provided is 25 mm. So based on that, 1/4 of 25. Okay, your shall not be less than that. So you select your lateral ties like that, or in no case less than. In no case, actually it's not less than. There is a mistake here.
No, I think the typo should be
in no case greater than
6 mm. It is not 16 mm.
Okay, so in no case less than 6 mm. In no case, because now you can see here 25, we got 25 divided by 4. Anyway, it is turning out to be more than 6. But if it happens, our largest diameter bar is 20 mm. 20 divided by 4, it turns out to be 5. But the minimum diameter you need to use is 6 mm. Okay. So we need to, whatever recommendations for the lateral ties, we need to comply with this. So that is all. That is what is workout is shown here. Tie diameter should not be less than 1/4 of the largest diameter, and also I think Professor Amlan, that is also, there is one more thing. It should not be greater than 16 mm.
Yeah, because typically you cannot bend.
Yeah.
If the size is large, you cannot bend the ties. That is true.
Yeah, it should, actually you can read that in that way also. Okay, it should not be. It in no case shall. In no case greater than 16 mm. So because when your diameter of the bar exceeds a certain value, the bending of it, it's going to be very difficult. And so there is a ceiling, upper ceiling on the diameter of the bar. So the tie bar, the lateral ties are selected based on that. Hence provide 8 mm diameter ties. And once you decide on the diameter of the ties or the size of the bars that you want to use for lateral ties, you can decide on the spacing. Okay, tie spacing shall not exceed 3. Actually, it is 300 mm here. Sorry, it shall not exceed the least lateral dimension. Least lateral dimension of the compression member. In this case, it is our section dimension is 600 by 400. So least lateral dimension is 400. It shall not be more than 400. It shall not be more than 16 times the smallest diameter of the longitudinal reinforcement. Smallest diameter of the longitudinal reinforcement is 20 mm. 16 times of that are 300 mm. So here you can see all the checks are made. It shall not be greater than 400. Shall not be greater than 320. 16 times the smallest diameter of the bar. And also it shall not be greater than 300 mm. So provide 8 mm lateral ties at 300 mm. Okay. So now you calculated the longitudinal reinforcement, you calculated the lateral ties. That is not the end. You need to show it in the form of a structural drawing. So here you can see the cross section of the column. Cross section of the column is shown with reinforcement details. And you have six bars of 25 mm diameter, 6 bars of 25 mm diameter, and also you can see here how the 6 bars of 25 mm diameter are disposed along across the cross section. 4 of the 25 mm bars are placed at the corners, and 2 of the 25 mm diameter bars are placed along this side. Okay, midpoint along the shorter side, and 2 diameter bars, because we need to provide 4 more 20 mm diameter bar. 4 20 mm diameter bars are placed like this. Okay. And then you can see the lateral ties. You need to tie all the bars, okay, all the longitudinal bars. So here alt staggered, here it's mentioned staggered in the sense one time this, one time this, one time this, one time this. Okay, these are all staggered. Any questions here? So the design of a column that we looked at is only for short axially loaded columns. So axial load is considered here. And also before you adopt the procedure that is given under short axially loaded columns in IS 456, make sure your column is short. And for that you need to make all the checks. And also minimum eccentricity should not be exceeding certain value which is given under that. That check is also made, and then only we can use that particular procedure. So once all those checks are passed, and here since the section is already fixed for 600 or 400 by 600 mm, so our job is to find the amount of steel, amount of the longitudinal steel you can obtain using this, and lateral ties based on the codal specifications. Once you decide on the diameter of the bar, depending on the diameter of the longitudinal reinforcement and other things, you can decide on the spacing. So this is related to that. Okay, and finally this is the recommendation and the structural drawing. Any questions here? And another example is also shown here. It's a circular column. Whatever column we just looked at, it's a rectangular cross section. Same procedure you can adopt for columns having square cross section. And here circular diameter column, how to design. Using whenever you have cross section as circle, you can use either lateral ties or helical reinforcement. Here to demonstrate or to illustrate this particular portion, or to illustrate this class 39.4, a circular column is selected, and also the helical reinforcement is chosen to be adopted for lateral ties. So let's take a note of this circular column of diameter 300 mm with helical reinforcement to support a factored load. Factored load is directly given. Okay, factored load of 1500 kilonewtons. Unsupported length of column is 3 meters and braced against side sway. Okay, adopt M20 grade of concrete Fe415 steel. All the details are noted here. Column is braced against side sway. Unsupported length is 3 meters. So we can take unsupported length, conservatively we can take effective length same as unsupported length. And make sure the column is short column. And also this is a circular column. Okay, so you don't have two kinds of eccentricities. So that eccentricity is calculated. Minimum 20 mm eccentricity we need to use, and also make sure the other check 0.05 times the lateral dimension, that is not exceeding or the eccentricity is not exceeding that value. Okay, and here actually it is exceeding that value. Ours is the minimum eccentricity we need to provide is 20 mm, but as per the code, this ceiling is here, should not exceed 0.05 times the lateral dimension. It is exceeding, but I think the workout that is not considered. Maybe you can rework it out, or you can change the dimensions of the column. Okay. A small mistake is there. Is it clear? So this check is failed here, but still the same equation is used. Maybe you need to rework it out. Increasing you take the diameter of the column as 450 mm or something like that. And then once those two checks are passed, then you can actually make use of this equation, same equation, this one. But since now we decided to use helical reinforcement, the capacity of the section can be enhanced by 5%. That is what is mentioned here. Strength of the compression member with helical reinforcement satisfying certain requirements. We will see what are those requirements, okay? Assuming our helical reinforcement is going to satisfy those requirements, shall be taken as 1.05 times the strength of similar member with lateral ties. So since we decided to use helical reinforcement, this quantity we need to multiply with 1.05. So that is carried out here. And rest of the procedure is similar to whatever we discussed. An area of steel is calculated and also compared with minimum reinforcement requirement. And once the area of steel is known, you decide on the diameter of the bar. You choose the number of bars. Okay. Please note that this section is circular section. So when you are selecting the bars, sometimes we need to we cannot use odd number of bars or something like that. So accordingly, either change the diameter of the steel reinforcement, or you need to do some kind of trial and error with number of bars as well as diameter of the bars. Make sure that the area of steel provided is matching or exceeding this value. Okay. So 6 bars of 28 diameter bars are selected, and now anyway, this is the details. This is a section of the column, and this is how the elevation looks like. And but still we have not discussed about this, how to arrive at this helical reinforcement. We'll come back to this picture, or we'll come back to this figure in a while. But you can see here 6 28 mm diameter bars, 6 28 mm diameter bars. They are disposed in this manner. And clear cover, depending on the exposure conditions, here 40 mm clear cover is adopted. And please see this reinforcement. This lateral reinforcement is actually going outside the main reinforcement. Okay, it is encompassing the main reinforcement. Main reinforcement in the sense longitudinal reinforcement. It is actually 6 bars, 6 number, 28 mm diameter. 2 is missing here. So here. And now what is left out is how this is arrived, how the size is arrived, and also how the spacing or pitch is arrived. That we need to discuss. That to discuss that we need to make use of this portion of the code. So let's go through this. The ratio of volume of helical reinforcement, ratio of volume of helical reinforcement to the volume of core shall not be less than 0.36 times in brackets AG over AC minus 1 multiplied by FCK divided by F1. Okay, you need to make a note of this. Volume of helical reinforcement to the volume of core. And please note that when we are checking this, we are going to check for unit length. Okay, so let's see that procedure. Assuming cover of 40 mm, first thing is, assuming a cover of 40 mm, core diameter is going to be 300 is the cross section, the diameter of the cross section of the circular column. 40 mm on either side. Here, 40 mm on this side, 40 mm on this side. 40 mm on this side, 40 mm on this side. So whatever is left out, that is what is core. So the core diameter is going to be that. And area of core, once you get the core diameter, you can calculate area of core. You can cross check all these numerical calculations, okay? And this core, I got the core, the area, cross-sectional area of core. I need to calculate volume of the core. Volume I'm going to calculate only for meter unit length. Volume of core per meter length, okay? And also cross-section, gross cross-section. Gross cross-section is this much. Gross cross-section of this particular 300 mm diameter column is this much. And using 8 mm diameter helical spirals at a pitch of P mm, volume of helical spiral per meter length is given by. Please make a note of this one. 8 mm diameter helical reinforcement is selected, and pitch, let's assume, I don't know what is pitch. So to calculate this pitch only, we are doing all this. Let's assume that pitch to be P, then volume of helical spiral per meter length is given by, please see here, this spiral is going along the outer periphery of the rebars, outer periphery of the longitudinal rebars. So this circumference of this is given by, pi times the diameter up to the midpoint of this helical reinforcement. So midpoint of the helical reinforcement, how you are going to get? The cross-section dimension is 300. 300 minus 40 mm on this side, 40 mm on this side, and midpoint of this spiral reinforcement. Midpoint of this spiral reinforcement I'm going to get, or it's going to be half diameter away from the this outer surface of the spiral reinforcement. Half diameter on this side, half diameter on this side. So it's going to be 300 minus 40 times 2 on either side because of the cover, clear cover, minus 2 times the half the diameter of the spiral reinforcement. So that's why the diameter of the helical reinforcement is actually assumed prior to this. So this is going to be your pi times D. Pi times D is going to give you the circumference of this helical reinforcement multiplied by 50. 50 is your
the area of the cross section.
Yeah, 50 is. Please note that this is the circumference, and 8 mm diameter bar. 8 mm diameter bar, pi d square divided by 8, round it off to the nearest integer, that is 50. Okay, so this is going to be the one wound of this. If you wound one time, then that is going to be the total volume of the helical reinforcement. And how many of those wounds are going to be there in 1 meter? 1 meter divided by pitch is going to give you so many number of times it is going to turn around. So that is what is this one. Number of times it's going to be looping around multiplied by the volume of the helical reinforcement per one time. So that is going to be, this is the volume of helical reinforcement per meter, and this is the volume of core per meter. And now we are ready to make use of this one. Volume of helical reinforcement to the volume of the core shall not be less than this value, 0.36 times this one, Ag divided by Ac minus 1 FCK divided by F1. So we need to make sure that this ratio is going to be less than that. Anyway, here pitch is unknown, so we can use this relation. We can use this relation, back calculate what should be the pitch. Solving, we are going to get pitch. Pitch is 52.78. Pitch, when you calculate this, you are going to get a relation. Pitch should not be less than this. So adopt a pitch of less than that 52.68. Pitch is not only going to depend on that relation, it also going to depend on your other consideration. Pitch, let's see. Helical reinforcement. Helical reinforcement, I'm in a class. Helical reinforcement shall be of regular formation with the turns of helix spaced evenly, and its end shall be anchored properly by providing 1/2 extra turns of spiral bar. Anyway, this is all related to the how we need to actually anchor it. Okay, and let's see this one. The pitch of the turns shall not be more than 75 mm, not more than 1/6 of the diameter of the column, nor less than 25 mm, nor less than 3 times the diameter of the steel bar forming the helix. So all this is translated in the form of an equation, and that is what is written here. You can cross check. Pitch should be less than 75 mm, or core diameter divided by 6. Pitch shall be greater than 25 mm or 3 times the diameter of the helix. Okay, based on that, final recommendation is 36 mm. So that is the reason in this figure pitch is shown as 36 mm. Okay, so go through this, and if you have any questions, you can email me. I sent an assignment, one on rectangular column, another is on circular column. Okay, please go through that and then try to complete that assignment. And quiz 2 is going to be on 18th. Okay, as I announced. So please be alert. And again, I'm going to send you a reminder on 17th. Okay, I'm going to stop here. Professor Ramlan, you want to make any comments, final comments on this example or anything else?
No, I would rather listen to the feedback of the students.
Yes. Or you can send by email.
See, the course is coming to an end. You have to say something.
At least maybe you can ask class representative. Nobody want to say anything? Professor Ramlan?
No, I think then we can wind up.
Okay, thank you. So you please keep a watch on your email and also WhatsApp messages, and try to complete and submit the assignments. And then this quiz is going to be on 18th, and final exam whenever you return to the campus, or whatever decision administration is going to take on that. Okay, thank you.